My brother is weaponizing his veganism by refusing to come to Thanksgiving unless the whole family gives up on meat for the meal, and my own mother wants me to just give in so she can see her son. Posted by you/suspicious Basil 7882. I feel like I've slipped into the twilight zone with this whole argument, so tell me what's up, Reddit. Background: I, 31F, and my brother Mark, 35M, do not get along. When he was a teen, he saw a documentary on factory farming and decided to become a vegetarian. He got very annoying about it quickly, but my dad shut him down when he started trying to get the rest of us to be vegetarian with him. Then he went to college, made a bunch of very strange friends, and went militantly vegan. It's his entire personality. I stopped talking to him after he threw a fit about one of my birthday dinners being at a steakhouse and spammed my messages and social media with pictures of abused cows. My parents have been trying to repair the situation, and for a while, it did seem like Mark was getting better, so I've been letting him back into contact gradually. Then he started dating Pam, who is some kind of vegan influencer. She is apparently moderately popular online, but I have no idea what she does exactly. I don't know if Mark was trying to impress her or what, but last Thanksgiving he insisted that Mom cook at least a vegetarian meal or they wouldn't come on ethical grounds. My mom just wanted everyone to get along on her favorite holiday, so she agreed. It was not a fun meal. This year, my parents have downsized for retirement, and my mom is having health problems. I bought their house when they moved, so my mom asked me to host Thanksgiving so it would be like usual. I told everyone in the group chat so Mark and Pam could make travel arrangements, and Pam immediately started gushing about all the vegan replacement recipes she could give me to replace the traditional ones. I said to send me a main dish recipe they like and I would give it a shot, but I'm making the traditional meal otherwise, and there should still be plenty of things they can eat. Mark and Pam have been arguing about this with me for days, and then Mark said that if I wouldn't make a meat-free meal, they wouldn't come. This upset my mom, who asked me to just make what she made last year to keep the peace, but I told her that Mark needs to get over himself and I'm not coddling him. I'm having turkey on Thanksgiving. My dad privately agrees with me, but Mark threatening not to come is upsetting my mom so much that he's worried it will impact her health. There's a not big, but also not zero chance that these might be some of the last family holidays we have with her. My mom thinks I'm putting turkey over my own family, and I'm not so sure anymore. Am I the jerk for refusing to cook a vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. My aunt was vegan. She brought her own meals to family gatherings. Why can't they do the same? Op's response. They object to participating in anything that involves meat, won't even go to non-vegetarian restaurants. They're really extreme about it. Op when called out on calling their brother weird. I'm calling his college friends weird because they were legit weird. One ended up joining a cult. One believed in drinking urine as medicine. One had moldy white people dreads. One of them tried to recruit me to his polygamous harem when I was 18. I'm contemptuous of my brother because he roundly deserves contempt. He's a self-righteous, entitled freeloader who spends his life being angry at everyone for ridiculous reasons, has barely ever had a job or contributed anything to society, and blames everyone else for anything bad that happens to him due to his own stupid life choices. Op adds an edit to their post. To answer some common questions. As I said, I've already offered to make sure there is a main dish and sides they can eat. Mark and Pam will not show up if anyone else eats meat at this meal. If any meat is served to anyone, they won't come. Doing multiple meals that day or across multiple days is a no-go. I'm a newly minted critical care physician at an understaffed hospital during a major holiday week, and I will have a limited window of time between shifts. I have time for one gathering, and I would rather not waste it on a miserable one like last year. Mark and Pam can't host because they live in a van at present. I'm also not willing to have them in my kitchen for hours bitching about the meat in my fridge, the cookware and utensils, and whatever else they can find to complain about. The time it would take for them to come, eat, socialize for a couple of hours, and leave is the maximum amount I'm willing to let them be in my home. Although it would admittedly be interesting to watch them try to host a family Thanksgiving out of a van. It is very unlikely that my mom is going to die anytime soon. It's just a non-zero chance. She's understandably worried about it and is in the pessimism stage of grieving her health. She has a good prognosis, and most people with her condition pull through and live for a long time afterward. If it is by some chance the last Thanksgiving, I don't think a repeat of last year's Thanksgiving would do her any good either, as everyone left that table unsatisfied and unhappy. Op adds a second edit to their post. So, a possible solution to this that I came up with while talking to my partner is to just work through Thanksgiving instead. The attending on shift that day would probably be happy to stay home, so swapping wouldn't be hard. Mom would be sad about canceling, but she knows my job is demanding and saves lives, so she won't be upset. Mark and Pam can kick rocks. To be honest, eating hospital turkey between emergencies sounds better than a family Thanksgiving right now. I'll have to turn it over some more. Op adds a third edit to their post. Problem mostly solved. Dad finally hit critical mass and told Mark that if he didn't get his rear here on Thanksgiving to support Mom unconditionally and without a single complaint or argument the entire time, he was disowning and disinheriting him, and the next time he needed money or help, he could forget it. So Mark is theoretically coming. Pam is not. Dad has already ordered the turkey. The recipes Pam sent are ridiculously complicated, so I worked out a deal with one of the nurses at work who is vegan, and she's going to make a couple of her favorite dishes ahead that I can bake the day of for Mark. We'll see if he actually manages to show up. Update 2 months later. People have been asking, and I'm finally out from under the balls to the wall madness at work for a little bit. So, to recap, my mom is sick and wanted a nice family Thanksgiving at my house, since it used to be the family house and their new place is small. My vegan brother and his girlfriend refused to come unless the entire meal was vegetarian. I am not okay with being blackmailed over food in my own home. It was upsetting my mom enough that before Thanksgiving, my dad called my brother and told him that if he did not show up to Thanksgiving, support my mom, and be pleasant to everyone without a single comment about food, he was disowned. My brother agreed to come. His girlfriend opted out at the time. My dad and I planned the meal. I made sure there were plenty of vegetable dishes available and made a deal with a vegan nurse at work to make me a couple of vegan casseroles that I could bake for my brother. My mom was happy, and it looked like everything was solved. My brother arrived the night before Thanksgiving with a girlfriend after all, in their van, which they live in. This was unplanned, but at least they showed up. They intended to camp in my yard. I told them absolutely not. They asked if they could stay in my guest room then. I said that I had not planned for them to stay there, and given their previous behavior, I thought it best if they went and got a hotel room. Plus, they have a large breed dog with them, I don't have a fenced yard, and I don't want the dog in the house. They can't afford a hotel room. He calls Mom. The community my parents live in does not allow overnight guests under 50, so they can't sleep there. To end the debate, I paid for a hotel room and allowed the dog to hang out in the garage for the night because the hotel doesn't accept pets that large that aren't service animals. Thanksgiving Day, my parents come over, other family members and my partner come early to hang out, and everything is going fine. Brother and girlfriend roll up around 11. They both smell strongly of weed, which is not legal here, making things awkward from the start. Girlfriend comes into the kitchen to help, even though everything is almost done, and starts taking pics with her phone without permission and telling my very southern great aunt, who has been cooking since God was a child, how to make cornbread dressing the right, vegan, way. Several bless your hearts later, the girlfriend is firmly escorted to the living room instead since she's a guest. Meanwhile, my brother has cornered my partner, who is also in the medical field and has the patience of a saint, about his vaccine conspiracies, and my dad is just letting it happen because at least he's not talking about food. Finally, we're ready to eat and everyone is making a plate. Girlfriend asks a million questions about ingredients and then just gets small portions of 2 side dishes, not even the actual vegan dishes made by my vegan friend. My brother eats all the vegetable dishes but comments about how girlfriend makes them better. I notice girlfriend gets up to go to the bathroom a lot, and at one point, she's gone for a while, so I go check on her to make sure she's okay. You all, this woman was filming a TikTok video for her channel in my bedroom. I was speechless. She apologized and said that she thought it was the guest room and she needed a minute away from the smell of meat. I told her to stop and go downstairs and that since it's illegal here to record video on private property without the owner's permission, if she posted anything she recorded in my house, I would press charges. After we were done eating, my brother pulled me off to the side and told me that I was a bitch for threatening his girlfriend. My partner happened to be close enough to hear and apparently told my dad. Dad asked my brother to help with something outside for a minute. I don't know what was said, but my brother came back and looking pissed, reminded girlfriend that they needed to head back to beat traffic, said goodbye to Mom, and they left in a hurry. So much of a hurry that they forgot the poor dog, who was still out in the garage, and by the time my brother answered a call, he was so worked up he cussed me out and told me to just keep the dog since I had to have everything my way, and his girlfriend was yelling in the background when he hung up. My mom either completely missed what was going on or is pretending she doesn't know so we don't have to talk about it, but she said she had a good Thanksgiving and it was nice to have everyone together. My dad hasn't said anything about what he told my brother, but he wants to take Mom to the beach for Christmas and asked if my partner and I wanted to go, without saying anything about my brother and his girlfriend. My cousin checked up on girlfriend's channel and says that she's posted videos, but they're from the hotel the night before in the van afterward, so at least she had the sense to be warned. I've sent messages, and so have my dad and partner, offering to try to get the dog back to them, but so far neither of them are talking. I don't want to take the poor thing to the shelter. It's not his fault, and he's not a bad dog, just big and excitable. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Is there a way that you can keep the dog or find him a good home? I would tell Brother Dearest that he and his girlfriend are no longer welcome at your house. Ops response. My partner has pack bonded with the dog at this point, and the plan was to move here in January anyway, so we have a dog now. He seems to be enjoying his escape from van life so far.
My girlfriend started acting distant after my dad info dumped on her when she visited for Seder, and now I'm scared she thinks I hate her because she's not Jewish. Posted by you/Pesach. Problems. So, I, 25M, have been dating my girlfriend, Lily, 23F, for a little over a year. It had been going great, and we were getting very serious, even talking about moving in together. So, my parents asked me to invite her over to their house for a Passover Seder last month. For those who don't know, Passover is basically a meal combined with a story to celebrate the Exodus, the Jews being freed from slavery in Egypt, Moses, etc. I've only had one other serious girlfriend, when I was in college, and she was Jewish. Lily is not Jewish. But honestly, my parents don't care, they didn't really like my ex and seemed to really like Lily. I grew up very secular. All that being said, there are a lot of Jewish-specific things happening during a Passover Seder, so I think my parents, especially my dad, felt the need to maybe over-explain things to Lily, and it seemed to make her uncomfortable. I didn't say anything at the time, which I regret, because I did notice that she seemed off, like quieter than usual. But I also thought that she might just be a little quiet because she was meeting my parents, and that saying something might draw more attention to it, which she wouldn't want. Not an excuse, just an explanation of my mindset at the time. Anyway, since then, and it's been nearly a month, Lily's been kind of distant. She usually spends most nights at my apartment but has only been over a couple of times and hasn't wanted to have sex. I noticed this within a week and tried to talk to her about it. I apologized for my parents' behavior and emphasized that I love her and that her not being Jewish doesn't matter to me. She just kind of blushed bright red and said it was fine. But it's obviously not fine, and she doesn't want to talk about it. Does anyone have any advice on how to broach this again, or what to do or say? I'm really lost, and I don't want to lose my relationship over this. Update 5 days later. It's been a weird freaking week, so I apologize if this isn't the most coherent update. After I posted, I really appreciated the advice noting that I might be making some assumptions about what was upsetting my girlfriend, Lily, so I asked her if we could talk and said that I just wanted us to be open with each other. She agreed to meet up on Friday after work, when we normally would anyway for a date. So I made a nice meal for her at my apartment, her favorite thing that I cook, this creamy, lemony pasta dish, and then afterwards, I tried to just kind of have this open-ended conversation about what I noticed, for example, how she's been more distant, and asked if something was wrong. She was really hesitant, just looked kind of nervous, and then she just kind of blurted out that the Seder made her uncomfortable. Okay, so that's what I thought, right? So I figure, okay, let's talk this through. It turns out that while she knew I was Jewish, she didn't think I was so Jewy until she came to the Seder. I cringed and told her that the word Jewy was inappropriate, and she did not like me saying that. There's a part of the Passover Seder where we say next year in Jerusalem, just as a kind of hopeful attitude in light of the Jewish diaspora, I think? Anyway, she said that she found that part really inappropriate given the current war in Gaza. I told her that those things were not connected. My family has no real connection to Israel, and the Seder is a hundreds, maybe thousands, years old tradition that long predates the modern state of Israel. She didn't seem to care about that. So, I finally asked her if she had a problem being in a relationship with me given my Jewishness. She emphatically stated that no, she loves me. But it was a shock, and she needs time. That really threw me, though, and I asked her what she needed time for, but she didn't have a real answer. So I went to my parents for the weekend to just kind of get away, since I wasn't sure what all this meant. While I was gone, I got an alert on my phone that an AirTag was following me. I found it hidden in my car. I called Lily, and she denied it was hers, but I was pretty sure she was lying since she's not a good liar. Finally, she admitted she was trying to see where I was going and if it was to the temple. I honestly haven't been inside a temple since my bar mitzvah almost 13 years ago. Anyway, it should go without saying that I ended it. I blocked her on everything. I destroyed her AirTag too. No clue what the hell is wrong with her, but it feels anti-Semitic, I guess. Wish I had a happier update. I thought she was the one, but screw me, I guess. Op adds an edit to their post. I guess the post got locked? I was mostly okay with the discussion I saw, but maybe that's because the mods took care of some bad stuff before I saw it. If that's the case, thank you, mods. I finally read through all, I think all, of the comments. To those that made me laugh, I sincerely thank you. I'm very high right now, eating sour gummies and laugh crying at stupid movies. That's my coping mechanism, and I recognize it's not healthy, especially with my Ashkenazi gastrointestinal issues. Anyway, to those who think this was an issue she had with my being religious, I don't think you understand what Judaism/Jewishness is. I'm not religious, I'm actually an atheist. Her issue was with my cultural background. She didn't see my culture because I guess it's not on display all the time? I mean, I think I have a pretty stereotypically Jewish sense of humor, but maybe she didn't put that together. Anyway, the more I think about it, the more I realize what other people said here is true. She wanted me to be generically white, and when she realized I was more ethnic than that, she had an issue with it. That's anti-Semitism, full stop. I did end up telling some mutual friends the full story, and one of them told me they actually suspected she might have some conspiracy theories rattling around in her head which, if true, is like, damn, I don't even know. He thinks she was attempting to track me because of some protocols of the Elders of Zion crap she might believe, like she was hoping I would lead her to the secret meeting? I honestly hope that's not true, and I take it with a massive grain of salt. To those who think this was a made-up post, I freaking wish. I honestly feel like maybe this is a weird dream I'm going to wake up from and my perfect, beautiful girlfriend will still be there. But she's not who I thought she was. It's all too real. I'm not going to wade into the political quagmire except to say that my ex-girlfriend's issues with me were about way more than a war thousands of miles away. I don't actually think she and I probably disagree all that much on how we feel about that war. If you can't separate those things and see the anti-Semitism behind her actions, attitudes, and language, then you are part of the problem. Second update 10 months later. I still get messages on this account to this day. A few anti-Semitic screeds now and again, but lots of lovely people, fellow Jews and others, just checking in. It's been almost a year, and I was thinking about it again as Passover approaches. I'm not sure if anyone will see this update, but I thought I'd post it anyway. If you do see it, hi. Please don't message me if you're a Jew-hating jerk. So the post went like minorly viral? Not enough for it to be a huge deal, but enough that people I know IRL saw it outside Reddit and connected the dots. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. It was overwhelming but also kind of exciting. I certainly didn't expect my 5 minutes of internet fame when I made the post, but I guess you never know. Anyway, I was depressed for about 2 weeks, but my friends dragged me out. I tried dating again, mostly unsuccessfully. I thought about only dating Jewish girls, but that kind of made me feel crappy. I don't have anything against Jewish girls, obviously, I'm related to many, but it just felt messed up too, like, limit my dating pool in that way. Plus, I started to feel like it would give the anti-Semites more power, like I let them control my dating choices. But when I went out with this really sweet, nominally Christian girl for our third date, I started feeling really paranoid. My best friend, 26F, who is black, was a real source of comfort during this time, and she told me that's why she usually only dates black guys, because there's always this nagging fear when she dates a white guy. Anyway, like 3 months later, I got an actual letter in the mail from Lily. One of our mutual friends had seen my post on TikTok, found the Reddit post itself, and sent it to her without asking my permission, which is messed up. Lily was deeply apologetic. She said she started therapy after I broke up with her, first just because she was depressed, but then it made her examine her views. She said her older brother is the one who planted these ideas in her head, which she now recognizes are anti-Semitic. I guess he used to be pretty far left, a Bernie supporter, etc., but during the pandemic, he went hard the other direction and is full Trumpist conspiracy theory now. She said she's gone no contact with him and told her parents everything, too, since they were really upset about our breakup. They like me a lot. She asked if it would be possible to meet up, just for closure. I unblocked her. We chatted briefly and I agreed to meet up. This was in early September. We had a good talk, we both cried and, yes, we ended up sleeping together. But as soon as it was over, I had like a full-blown panic attack, which was a first for me. She was really sweet and patient with me. She clearly was hoping this would happen, that we would hook up, but I really felt scared about what it meant. So we agreed to take it slow. And most of the time, it was really nice, like we fell back into how things used to be. But that paranoia I had when I was trying to date earlier would assert itself with her at seemingly random moments, but like cranked up to 11. We went to her therapist together, which was helpful. We talked about concrete ways for her to regain my trust and how we could measure it so that she would know she was doing the right things. She was really committed, honestly. I don't really doubt that she was doing the work and wanted to do whatever it takes. But after almost 3 months of this, it was clear I couldn't actually articulate how she was supposed to regain my trust, and maybe I never could. We broke up again. It was really hard, and she really didn't want to end it. She kept telling me that I'm the best thing that ever happened to her. I told her that I would always have love for her, but I can't be in love with her after everything she did, and it's not fair to her to keep pretending that could change. That was near the end of December. On New Year's, my best friend, The one I mentioned earlier, and I kissed. It was just supposed to be a friendly ring in the New Year kiss, but I felt my heart jump into my throat as soon as it happened. I think I've always had a crush on her since we first met in college, but never really acknowledged it to myself. Firstly, I had a girlfriend when we first met, but also, she just seemed so completely cool and gorgeous and unobtainable, just undeniably out of my league. But after that kiss, and the hard year I'd been going through, I really wanted to try. I was super scared that it would end our friendship. And remember, I mentioned she said she didn't date white guys? Yeah. But alcohol will make me do things I wouldn't normally. Usually, that's led to poor choices, not to mention it just messes up my stomach. So when we found ourselves alone later in the night, I just poured my heart out and how the kiss had felt magical. Just really embarrassing, soppy stuff that is making me blush just remembering. But she shut me up with another kiss. It was like out of a freaking movie, you guys. We started casually, she really did not want to be my rebound. But a few weeks ago, we said I love you to each other and she agreed to be official and exclusive. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to take her to my parents for a Seder. My parents already know her, they already love her, and they are thrilled for me. I'm thrilled for me. It's been a freaking roller coaster, and my life is really confusing still in other departments, but I'm just really, really happy. I hope you all are happy too.
My mom wants to remain neutral and not pick a side after my brother lost his temper and tried to unalive me, but says it was my fault for being rude and tells me not to testify against him. Posted by you/throwaway_astrogirl. This happened a few years ago but is still a major issue in my family. I, 25F, am the youngest and only girl of my siblings. My mom, 50F, and I live in a different state and decided to visit home, and my oldest brother, 31M, offered to house us with his family. The first night there, my mom went out with some old friends, and my brother and his girlfriend, 32F, asked to hang out with me in their home for the night. After their kids, 4 children between the ages of 9 months and 12, went to bed, we started drinking and talking about random things since this was the first time I had actually met his girlfriend and spent time with her. While talking, his girlfriend asked about our childhood and what he was like as a kid. I answered honestly, he was a bad kid. He ran away, spiked our mom's boyfriend's drinks with bleach, fought at school almost daily, and was suspended constantly until he dropped out. Something I thought was funny to joke about was not funny to him, and he got angry. His girlfriend and I laughed it off. We were all very drunk at this point, but I could tell he was getting angrier and angrier. Then he asked me, if I just punched you right now, it wouldn't be funny, would it? Again, drunk me laughed it off, thinking we were just talking about our lives and childhoods. We were not abused or neglected as children, so I truly didn't see this as me laughing at traumatic events or making fun of him. And then, in a split second, he punched me, over and over. I remember protecting myself as I fell, getting back up, and throwing anything in front of me as I tried to move out of the way. Then I was back on the floor, mouth bleeding, disoriented, and crawling to the couch for help. The kids ran into the room, scared and crying, and his 9-month-old was crying hysterically. He was screaming and yelling at his girlfriend, it's not funny, as she tried to calm him down. He even saw me on the couch crying and bleeding, threw a cup of alcohol in my face, and called me a beach. Then he said, I hope you know you're gonna effing die tonight. I remember running into the bathroom and locking the door, and I heard him searching desperately for a knife in the kitchen drawer. I called my mom, hysterically crying, and told her he was going to kill me, and she begged me to open a window and run. He began banging on the door, describing how he was going to stab me and gut me. As I tried to open the window, I think I even accepted at that point that I was dead and was just pondering how it would feel. And then he stopped. I waited and realized my mom had begun breaking down the door to get to me because he was looking for a new knife to kill me with. After this, I went to the hospital, and although I had no broken bones, I was bleeding and my entire face was bruised and cut. I pressed charges against him, and after almost 3 years, he was caught on a separate charge and now the case is moving forward this month. My mom, in her opinion, has tried to stay neutral, but I think, in her way of staying neutral, she has taken his side. She has told me that being beaten was a consequence of saying rude things to him and that I've already won because he's been in jail for months and should drop these charges since he's facing other criminal charges. Yesterday, I blew up, cried, and told her she was stupid and dumb for ever suggesting that I get over this, and I can't believe she would want to be neutral and not take my side. She hung up the phone, and we have not talked since. I feel like I might be wrong here because I don't have kids and I don't understand what she might be going through having to choose between us. It's also important to mention my brother has previously been diagnosed with a mental illness and has exhibited violent behavior like breaking windows, stealing, going on car chases from police, and fighting before, So I feel like our family has become so immune to his behavior that me pressing the issue and demanding accountability is making everyone uncomfortable. But I also feel like her seeing what I look like after he beat me, hearing me describe what it felt like, and how it has damaged me. I've been diagnosed with PTSD and anxiety, should automatically make her take my side and support my decision to take this to court. Am I the jerk for insisting that my mom choose a side between my brother and me? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. This can't be real. If the cops were called, they would recommend the DA press charges themselves, and the kids would be removed from the home since he's a psychopath. Ops response. In my moment of panic, I didn't call the police, I just called my mom for help, and she took me to the hospital. I went to the police the next day, and they basically did nothing until I got a phone call a few months ago saying that he had been arrested for something else. The DA did apologize and said he had no idea how this case slipped through the cracks or why it took so long for him to be arrested. The kids are still in the home, and he is still with his girlfriend. Commenter 2. I stopped reading after the very first sentence, not the jerk. If one child is a sociopath who tries to stab people, clearly you should be on the other kid's side. Ops response. Thank you for responding and for your honesty. Part of why I made the post is because, for the last couple of years, multiple family members have told me that expecting my mom to choose a side is irrational and that I should stop pushing this, drop the charges, and handle this as a family. After the argument with my mom, it really started making me question whether I am being irrationally biased and the jerk for bringing this situation up for so long and making her choose between us. I really thought people here were going to tell me I was letting my emotions blindside me and that I'm the jerk for yelling at my mom and pushing for her to make a clear stand, because I've been hearing it for years now. But hearing the opposite from so many people is actually mind-boggling, and I needed it. Update 3 weeks later. Hi everyone. I wanted to give an update since a lot has happened since my original post, and I felt so conflicted and alone in it all. For context, a few years ago, my older brother beat me violently during a drunken conversation, to the point that I thought I was going to die. My mother has stated that I shouldn't testify against him and that I'm the one at fault for making her pick between us when she's supposed to be neutral. As the trial started approaching, my family began pressuring me heavily to back out. My mom told me that I should let this go because my brother has suffered enough by losing his girlfriend, his kids, and facing time in jail for other charges. She says I'm pushing too hard and that my testimony will send him to prison rather than letting him finish his time in jail, even though I didn't ask for jail time. I requested a plea deal that focused on probation, a mental health evaluation, and mandatory medication adherence. I just wanted him to get help, and even that was too much. She also told me I'm contributing to what black men go through, which feels incredibly manipulative, considering she has never once asked me what I need to heal or how this has affected me. Everything is about my brother, his image, and how to keep him out of prison, not about what I experienced or what helps me feel safe. My brother had someone post on social media about him getting released soon, not happening, and my mother commented and said, "Can't wait for you to be home soon." So a side was clearly chosen here, and it's not mine. And then it got worse. My mom, father, and grandmother have all reached out trying to get me to drop the case. My father, mind you, this is my father, not my brother's, since we're half-siblings, told me, "It's not like your brother molested your kids or killed your husband," as if those are the only two scenarios that justify testifying. He said I'm ruining the family and making myself look bad by going forward. Then I found out my mom gave my father the name of my prosecutor without telling me, and they emailed the prosecutor pretending I had changed my mind about testifying because it wasn't really a big deal. Thankfully, the prosecutor reached out to confirm, and I told him it wasn't true. The trial was this morning, and my brother decided to plead guilty and ask for time served, and I was not allowed to testify. I felt like it was another thing he stole from me, my mental health, my feelings of safety, the love for my family, and now he took my moment of confrontation. However, he's back in jail because he is still awaiting sentencing for 11 other charges and facing decades in prison. I called my mother afterward and told her I didn't testify and that I knew she emailed the prosecutor. She denied it and said she had nothing to do with it but was happy my father did it nonetheless. She said I sided with the system and contributed to another black man in jail and should be ashamed of myself, then hung up. I texted her and said I still loved her and that I wish one day we can go back to being best friends again because I miss her. She hasn't responded. So much for neutral, right? Thank you for all the kind words and to everyone who told me they had been through something similar. My brother has taken so much from me, and I feel alone, defeated, and empty. Part of me is happy this is over, but the cost of my family is something I never even considered when he attacked me 3 years ago. I don't know how I will pick up the pieces or get through this immense sadness, but I will try. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. While you didn't get to testify during his guilty plea, is there any way you can prepare a victim impact statement to be read at his sentencing hearing? Even though it's not trial testimony, if allowed, you would be able to express to the court how his actions have affected your life and health. Ops response. They sentenced him at the same time as the plea hearing to time served and allowed me to make a statement then. I was honestly just so shocked and disappointed and trying not to cry that all I could say was, I hope he gets help, and I'm sad that our relationship has been reduced to this. He refused to say anything. I just hate that I wasn't prepared to make a statement because I had spent so much time prepping myself to testify. It's part of why I'm having the feelings I'm having, like I didn't actually get to let any of those feelings out, they're still here. He just keeps taking things from me, and that was one of them. Commenter 2. Why aren't your parents being held accountable for lying to the prosecutor about the ongoing criminal trial? Ops response. The prosecutor told me he didn't report my parents specifically because he felt bad for me, that I was being harassed by so much family, and he didn't want to make it worse by reporting them and giving them another reason to harass me. I'm so thankful he did that because I can barely handle the ostracism as it is. Does Op's brother have any other charges against him that are unrelated to Op's situation, and would her testimony have any impact on those other charges? Yes, he has about 11 other charges unrelated to me, including having a weapon as a felon. Actually, he never even went to jail for my charges until this year, when he was caught on the other charges and they realized he had a warrant for his arrest for almost 3 years that they had done nothing about. I confirmed before court that my testimony wouldn't have any impact on the other charges, and I was told that the other charges were so severe that it was unlikely a judge would even care about what happened today. And even then, that wasn't enough reassurance for my mother. She said it didn't matter that I didn't actually testify, wanting to is the same as actually doing it. Commenter 3. Can I ask what makes you keep going back to people who so obviously don't care about you? I don't have parents, so I don't understand it. What is it that they bring to you that makes you keep going back? Ops response. My mom and I were extremely close before this. I've had people say to us, I thought my mom and I were close, but you guys are really close. We saw each other every weekend, talked at least 3 times a day, we were so close. She was actually the one who told me to pursue charges 3 years ago. I think the shift happened when she realized he was going to jail for a long time and needed a scapegoat for her feelings, and that ended up being me. Even through all of this, she's called me and come by to apologize and tell me she could never choose anyone over me because she couldn't imagine life without me. So it's hard when she tells me how much she needs me and then switches to hating me so quickly. Op ongoing no contact with her family after what has taken place. I do think I have to go low contact/no contact with everyone because I'm realizing how toxic it is that I have to defend my feelings to my parents almost every time we talk. I'll have a few months off work soon, and I'm going to try to use that to rebuild my life with just myself and good therapy. I hope to look into some domestic violence shelters soon to find a community of women who understand what I'm going through. My boyfriend used to be loving and present, but now he's a workaholic who only has eyes for a promotion, and it feels like I'm dating his career while I watch our love quietly die. Posted by you/48 hours and counting. My boyfriend Jake, 29M, and I, 29F, had been together for 9 months, living together for 6 of them. We've known each other for a year and a half. As I write this, he's been at work for 50 hours and counting. He was supposed to come home for an hour last night to refresh, but he didn't show. I don't know if this difference in values is something that can be overcome. I've always known that Jake has ambition and drive. It attracted me to him. I respect that he is a hard worker and will do what needs to be done to get where he wants to go. The problem is, when we got together, he was working a job where he didn't see a future. Shortly after we moved in, he got a new job where he anticipates growth. Everything, and I mean everything, changed. His job uses him. He works shift work, and he's constantly put into situations where he's set up to fail. They have an event coming up, which has resulted in him working something like 25 days in a row, voluntarily, including this current 50-hour stretch. If you have to work, with no overtime pay, for over 50 hours straight to be successful, you shouldn't be in that job. That's my very strong opinion. When we started dating, our sex life was great. Then it crashed and burned to nothing. When I've expressed this, he's accused me of thinking sex is everything or thinking that everything is always going to be perfect. We've had sex once or twice in the last 3 months. He tells me it's because I don't initiate, which I'm working on, but how do you initiate when your partner is always exhausted, or at work, or feeling sick because he's at work so much that all he eats is junk? We don't sleep in the same bed. He sleeps on the couch every single night because he wakes up early and goes to bed late, if he's at home. I've asked him to share a bed with me. That's happened once in the last 2 months. Anytime I bring anything up, he gets so defensive. I don't know how to get around that. I get made to feel guilty for not supporting him. And you know what? No, I don't support him anymore. I think he's making terrible decisions for himself and for us. I tried to support him for a long time and wound up giving all of myself and feeling unvalued and unwanted. While I was supporting him, when I brought up my concerns, in a nice way, honestly, it all got turned around on me. When he wasn't a workaholic, we were fantastic. We still have our moments. I thought he was the one, everything was different with him. He warned me that when he started his new job, he would work a lot of hours, but I didn't anticipate this. I feel like my own boyfriend doesn't want me. Sex is huge to me. I've been in a sexless relationship before, and I don't want that. I feel like he devalues it so that he doesn't have to try or feel guilty. My biggest concern is that every time he finishes one mountain at work, something else is thrown at him. Will this ever change? Even when he gets promoted, I'm sure it'll happen, his work will be similar. I love him. I love him as a person. I hate the decisions he's making and the lifestyle he's choosing for himself and for us. I get working hard, I do. I just don't know if I can handle this. Has anyone been in a situation like this before? Do you have any suggestions on how to handle this? My coping right now is basically to not give a crap about what he's doing or what he's up to, but then I start crying that that's what my relationship has become. I think it's ridiculous that he's been at work for over 2 days, but at the same time, I don't care. Has anyone been through anything like this before? /relevant comments. Commenter. You guys do not seem like you're sexually or emotionally compatible anymore. Have you tried communicating everything you've told us to him? I would consider getting couples counseling together. Also, 50 hours with no sleep? When he does sleep, it's on the couch. Lack of sex? I had to plant the seed, but are you positive he is working? Ops response. I've communicated on several occasions. He strongly dislikes these talks, and it usually ends up being turned back on me. For example, sex isn't everything, or the one person who's supposed to support me, doesn't. I even got, you think sex is more important than the relationship. I've tried approaching nicely, and I've had my moments where it just hit me all at once and I burst. I understand that he's tired all the time, and having a nagging girlfriend doesn't help. Once, he blew up at me because I asked him to rinse some dishes. But that means there is never an appropriate time to him to have these conversations. He did initiate sex on Valentine's Day, though, and then used that later as a reason why I can't say I'm unsatisfied with our sex life. And yes, I'm positive. I get Snapchats and pictures from work sometimes during these stretches. I honestly don't know how he's alive right now. Commenter 2. Yikes, girl. You know how people say relationships rely on communication? That's actually true. Otherwise, you have a problem, and it's just your problem. If you won't listen or care about your feelings, then you have to live with things just the way they are because there's no other recourse. Ops response. There have been times when he's shown he listens. He just doesn't in the moments when I'm trying to talk. Some actions afterwards show he's heard and is trying, like washing some dishes, complimenting me a bit more, and honking my boobs. I appreciate the effort to show he notices me. But this is also the only relationship I've been in where we'll have an argument, he'll leave the room in the middle, and he went 3 days without attempting any communication. I sent a few texts and left some notes, but didn't go overboard because he's been upset before if we have a fight and I send a text like everything's good. But he doesn't like fighting over text either. And we went 3 days without seeing each other because of his work. When I write it out, it seems like such a mess. He's a good guy, he really is. But this is very unhealthy, isn't it? Commenter 3. You've been dating this guy for 9 months. 3 of them, before you lived together, were great. The rest of the time, 2/3 of the time you've been dating and all of the time you've lived together, you've been unhappy and unsatisfied. And, based on your description, he is uninterested, unwilling, or outright hostile about your attempts to communicate with him about your dissatisfaction. The purpose of dating is to find out if you're right for each other. You've spent more time with him unhappy than happy, and the longer you stay together, the unhappier you become. Newsflash, you have found out he's not the right guy for you. Don't bother with counseling, he's showing you every day how he is. Don't try to change him. Just end it and find someone you are actually compatible with. This relationship has taught you that you're not compatible with a workaholic. This is great, now you know that about yourself, carry on. Ops response. Good way of describing it. That's what I'm concerned about. I guess I'm just having a tough time internally separating the version of him when he's well rested and spends time with friends from the version of him who's overworked and exhausted, and saying that who he really is, is the overworked and exhausted guy. It's like when he's satisfied in his life outside of work, he's unsatisfied at work, and vice versa. And maybe I'm seeing where his priorities lie. Commenter 3. Maybe you'd be better off as friends. Then you could enjoy his company when he's well rested and unstressed, like his other friends do. If you'd been together for 10 years and this behavior was new in the last 6 months with a new job, I could see investing time in counseling, etc. But this is a new relationship, and he's acted this way for most of your relationship. I don't see the benefit in investing work here. Dating is like taking a relationship for a test drive. If this were a car you were test driving, would you buy it? You liked it in the parking lot, but it turns out you don't like the way it handles on the road. Do you look under the hood and tinker with the engine? No, you thank the dealership for the opportunity to try it out, give back the keys, and walk away. No hard feelings, you tried it out, and you're just not right for each other. Walk away. Ops response. Thank you for your advice. Update 5 days later. We broke up. One night at 7 o'clock, he woke up after another incredibly long shift, and I was crying. I said that I thought we might be incompatible with our lifestyles and priorities. That I wanted to make it work, if we could find a way, but we seemed so different. After going out for a smoke, he came back and started looking up rental apartments on his computer. Right in front of me. Without saying a word. I called him out on it. Asked him what kind of person does that without even saying a word to their girlfriend. He told me I'd already made the decision that we didn't work, that our lifestyles were too different. I told him that no, I said I wanted to make it work. I asked if he had any solutions. He said nothing. I asked if I was always going to be the only person to come up with solutions, because that puts a lot of pressure on me. He said, no, I get it, you feel like I don't exist, you're making me feel like crap, I get it. I kept emphasizing that I wanted to find a way to make it work. He asked me what I would do if things got worse. He asked, what would you do, cry every day and yell at me? That's when I told him I was done. I was done being the bad guy for having feelings. I was done being the only person trying. I was done being blamed for everything, from lack of sex, my fault for being so terrible with how I initiate, to me beating him home on my birthday. Apparently I left work early so he couldn't have my present ready. Even though I didn't, and I wasn't remotely upset about it. And we're done. He's moved out. I'm devastated but also relieved. I'm not always wondering when my boyfriend is going to be home, and how I can make our time count. I'm not always wondering if we're going to work out, because I know we won't. Despite crying a lot at work today, I feel lighter. I feel more optimistic. I desperately miss how we were when he wasn't working all the time. But that was so long ago, it feels like that relationship already died. I want to thank everyone for their advice. We just weren't compatible, and you were right. It wasn't just the work life that was doing it. It was the inability to communicate. I deserve better than being accused of making him feel like crap anytime I express an emotion other than joy about being with him. I'm proud of myself. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. He honestly cannot communicate or handle a mature, adult relationship. You are better off without a person like that because if you can't handle this conversation, when you were trying to communicate, then he is not worthy of your love or your time. You were committed to him and willing to work with him on making your relationship work. He was, and still is, committed to work, and that relationship got all his time and energy. You just got the leftovers. Ops response. Yep, I didn't once get a suggestion, throughout this whole saga, of what he, or even what we, could do to make things better. Not once did he fight for us. It was always just that I had to get used to it. No thanks. Commenter 2. You sound so much like me back in July, after I broke up with my partner of 3 years. He was also a workaholic, there were maybe 2 total weeks per year when he wasn't working under some deadline. But that wasn't the issue was he plainly didn't care about how he was making me feel. At least your ex was straightforward about his disdain, mine would do a great job acting like he cared and wanted to do better, but after a bit, he'd forget to keep up the act. Only when I stopped believing him did he start acting like your ex, trying to suggest that I was the problem and that I was doing him wrong. I wish my ex had been as blatantly uncaring as yours, I would have left so much sooner, no matter how much I still love the pre-workaholic version of him. Be thankful your ex showed his true colors so early. Ops response. This is true, better 9 months in than 10 months in, let alone 3 years. I'm sorry that happened to you. It takes a lot of strength to leave that far in. Commenter 3. There have been times when he's shown he listens. He just doesn't in the moments when I'm trying to talk. I just can't, that, along with the boob honking, her self-esteem set her expectations so low, and he still managed to walk under the bar. Commenter 4. I hope the boyfriend feels it's worth it, otherwise, what is the freaking point? Honestly, the job will never love you back. The boss wouldn't even pat you on the back if you're upset about the breakup. They're just going to tell you to stop crying, they want the new memo on their desk. My best friend made the days leading up to my bachelorette party a stressful nightmare, and now I don't think I want her as my maid of honor anymore. Posted by you/Cookie Munster 1971. For context, I, 24F, met my fiancé, 23M, in college. We've been together for over 6 years. I met my maid of honor, 24F, in college as well. We went to culinary school, so super niche, and my maid of honor and I became best friends by bonding over baking and taking classes together. We'll call my maid of honor Gianna. I've always known that I would marry my fiancé. We were each other's first real relationship, and we felt like we were meant for each other from the beginning. Gianna has always been nothing but supportive of us throughout these past few years, and I've always known I wanted her to be my maid of honor. I have 3 other bridesmaids, 1 being my fiancé's sister and 2 being close friends that I met through work within the past couple of years. I would have had another bridesmaid, however, she got engaged as well and backed out due to not being able to contribute financially to all the events while paying for her own wedding, which I completely understood. My fiancé and I got engaged on Valentine's Day of this year in Hawaii. I'll note that both Gianna and my fiancé's sister flew out to surprise me for the engagement. We're getting married next year, and I decided to have my bachelorette party in early September, aka a few weeks ago. I live on the West Coast and wanted to go to a cute beach town a couple of hours from me. 2 of my bridesmaids live near me, and my maid of honor and fiancé's sister live on the East Coast. The trip we planned was only 2 days, drive in Friday afternoon, leave Sunday afternoon. Gianna is super type A, plans everything down to the minute, always arranges her outfits, the whole 9 yards, and overall loves to be in control of a situation. She has been like that since school, so I have been aware of this. I thought it would be a good trait to have as maid of honor when it came down to planning events. She wanted pretty much the whole bachelorette trip to be a surprise, however, I gave her a general idea of the vibe and activities that I wanted to do. I'm super low-key, don't drink or party, and just wanted to have a relaxing time with all my closest friends. Maybe go to the beach, have a nice dinner, go to brunch, etc. I didn't know much about the planning, but one of my bridesmaids was basically a liaison and would discuss plans with me, report back to Gianna, etc. I also planned for my wedding dress shopping to happen the day before we left for the trip. We arranged for my parents, Gianna, and fiancé's sister to fly across the country to partake. So, how it all exploded. It's about a week and a half before the bachelorette party, and I'm talking with my bridesmaids about the trip. The itinerary was revealed to me, and I was a bit overwhelmed. We were waking up before sunrise to drive there, going on several different hikes, spending a lot of time driving around, etc. It was literally planned out to the minute, 6:30 do this, 6:45 do that, 7:15 etc., and it would have been impossible to try and accomplish everything. Long story short, it wasn't as low-key as I was hoping, and my bridesmaids said they could chat with Gianna about cutting out a couple of the activities, mostly the hiking because I'm not outdoorsy. Gianna initially had a neutral response but was acting more distant, saying whatever you think is best and stuff like that. Ultimately, though, she left the bachelorette group chat and texted me a long message that can be summarized as follows: "This trip is a disappointment, it's a dumpster fire, I could have taken you on a trip to Europe, just you and me, and I would have paid for the whole thing." They, the rest of the bridesmaids, weren't making any suggestions. I struggle to make the trip affordable for everyone else. I don't want to fly across the country to sit in an Airbnb, I don't want to come. Safe to say, I was shocked. Yes, I understand that I wanted to change the plans a bit, and it was a bit last minute, but we were not changing plans that had already been paid for or anything like that. I told her I was sorry for making her feel like I didn't appreciate her time and effort, but I did appreciate her, and that ultimately I still wanted her to come because I just wanted to have a fun time hanging out with all of my friends. I told her I was stressed at work and just wanted a chill and relaxing weekend, and I didn't want to go on the trip if she wasn't there. So she said, "You can't stay stuck in the Airbnb dwelling on your problems." The other bridesmaids wouldn't look at my PowerPoint. I'm at a time where I'm taking my life into my own hands. I don't give a crap about making friends with the other bridesmaids. I know you best. I'm sorry you feel stuck in life, and I'm not coming. Yet again, I was completely shocked. I figured she was just upset with me, which I completely understood. I tried to talk to her on the phone, but she would not pick up any of my calls. I told her it was unfair of her to do that and that we needed to talk. She proceeded to text, "I don't give a flying F about your friends, I'm not threatened by them. This trip isn't special enough, and no one wanted to put in the effort. If you're struggling so much financially, then you can reconsider your living situation." She then proceeded to bring up her emotionally abusive ex from over a year ago and how, apparently, I didn't support her enough. She also brought up that she has lost trust in me because I tell my fiancé everything. She then emphasized again that she doesn't want to come. I said fine, I can't change her mind, but I needed some time to think. I go on the bachelorette trip without her and have a great time with the rest of my bridesmaids. Flash forward a couple of weeks, and I decide to reach out to her to try and make amends. I ask if we could talk on the phone, and she says yes, but for the record, we're fine and I'm fine. I tell her that I have a few things I need to get off my chest, that I was hurt by a couple of the things she said during our conversation a couple of weeks ago. She says, okay, so that's not how this is gonna work. You're only bringing this up to make me feel bad about my decision. I meant the things I said, and I won't apologize. You wouldn't be bringing this up if you really wanted to make amends. I told her I just wanted her to apologize for how she was making me feel. If it truly wasn't intentional, wouldn't that be the least I could ask for? If she really cares about me and loves me, wouldn't she feel bad that I feel hurt? I asked her why she brought up her ex at a time like this, when I thought it was long over and she had worked through it. She says, reality check, your life is your creation. You chose to move across the country, you chose to follow your fiancé, you chose this new job, you begged to get married. This should be the happiest time of your life, you've gotten everything you've ever wanted, but you're hating every second of it. You should wake up every day and be grateful for what you have. I'm not going to apologize for how I made you feel because I didn't hold you down and inject sadness and stress into you. We didn't move past X's name because I basically hid my feelings from you to protect yours. I pretty much addressed all her points and then some, but I decided then and there to not have her as my maid of honor. I wished her well in life, but I told her that if this much drama was coming from a bachelorette party, how can I know some shenanigans won't happen on my wedding day? My friends were telling me that it seems like she's not in a good place mentally, or else she wouldn't be bringing up her ex. She also couldn't stop talking about how she didn't care to be friends with the rest of my bridesmaids and that she wasn't threatened by them, which I thought was odd. Just overall a really strange situation that I still feel like is a fever dream. She has been my best friend for years, and this totally changed my point of view of her. Am I wrong for rethinking our friendship and removing her as my maid of honor? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Did something happen between her and the other bridesmaids? She said the word threatened a few times, and I wonder about that. It sounds like she is overwhelmed and possibly traumatized by something. Maybe you could ask her if there are other things going on for her at the moment? Ops response. So, according to my bridesmaids, nothing happened. However, I currently work with 2 of them and have been for the past couple of years. I only see my ex-maid of honor once a year now, and I feel like she thinks she's being replaced. Commenter 2. I feel like we need more information. Were the other bridesmaids making it difficult for her by not helping or responding? She seemed to imply that she was on her own for planning, and maybe the reason she doesn't care about making friends with the bridesmaids is because she doesn't like them. If they all ignored her when she was trying to get the event organized, I could see why. I will get downvoted, but I do see her side. It would be incredibly frustrating to try to plan something and have no one acknowledge your questions or offer ideas, and then when they finally do reach out, it's to tell her she's doing it wrong. Why didn't they come up with suggestions before? Why wait until the week before? She was probably like, screw it, and gave up. It's perfectly reasonable to not want to fly across the country for 2 days of sitting in an Airbnb. Ops response. I saw all the texts in the bridal party group chat. They did not make anything difficult whatsoever, made tons of suggestions, as we all live in the same state, and were vocal about what they were willing to spend. At the time, Gianna said it was fine, but then she came to me and complained that they weren't willing to spend money on anything. If anything, they made better suggestions for activities. For example, I don't party or drink, and Gianna wanted to do a night of bar crawling, which they said I wouldn't like. Gianna had suggested whale watching, which they mentioned I wouldn't like. The reason everything happened the week before was because that's when I found out about the plans, and I only wanted to get rid of a few of the hikes or lookout points that were far away or involved a lot of driving. The rest of the weekend went according to plan, down to the same restaurants, boutiques we were scheduled to shop at, and beaches to go to. I told her that I knew it was terrible timing, but I was advised by the rest of my bridesmaids to speak up, and so I did. Update 7 months later. Hello, this is an update on a post I made a while ago. So, I recently got married, and it was absolutely beautiful. All of my closest family and friends were there to celebrate, and it couldn't have been more perfect. My mom took a ton of photos and posted them on Facebook. My old college roommate reached out to me for details on where Gianna, ex-maid of honor, was, since she wasn't in the photos, but here's some backstory. My old college roommate, we'll call her Daisy, and I were in a friend group with Gianna and a couple of other people. We were close, but we had all moved away after college and went our separate ways. Daisy ended up getting engaged around 2 years ago, and Gianna was one of her bridesmaids. There was a whole situation, and according to what Gianna had told me, she said that Daisy was forcing the bridal party to pay for a huge bridal shower at a winery, and she didn't feel comfortable doing that. Daisy's maid of honor had kicked Gianna out of the group chat, and Gianna and Daisy never spoke again. At the time, I believed Gianna, resulting in me rarely speaking with Daisy, but we still wished each other happy birthday, etc. Flash forward to a week ago, Daisy texts me and asks why Gianna wasn't in any of my mom's photos on Facebook. She knew she was my maid of honor, and I told her the whole story. When I tell you I was shocked when she told me that Gianna had done the exact same thing to her. Gianna, only being a bridesmaid, had suggested they do an all-inclusive trip to Mexico for the bachelorette party, and a lot of the bridal party were not comfortable paying for that, which people were openly vocal about. Gianna removed herself from the group chat and bridal party, saying that Daisy didn't deserve her, that she just wanted everything to be perfect, and that Daisy's maid of honor was bullying her. I told Daisy that I was so sorry that happened to her, and that as a result of their friendship breaking up, my friendship with her broke up as well. She was super understanding, and we bonded over the whole thing. But I feel so vindicated now and just had to share because this blew my mind. Have a lovely day. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Is Gianna a lesbian? This is giving jealousy/unrequited love vibes. Ops response. Definitely not, but she has a terrible dating track record. The worst was when she dated a 40-year-old man with kids when she was 19. Her most recent ex, who is our age, was emotionally abusive to her, told her she needed therapy, etc. She was actually very close to marrying him, but I had to practically beg her to break up with him. She made a lot of terrible choices, but I was always there to support her. Commenter 2. Was her ex really abusive? Like, did you witness it firsthand? Because if Gianna told you that without any proof, you might want to doubt whether it was the truth. But if you did see it, then Gianna does need some therapy. That attitude is neither normal nor healthy. She could end up alone quickly. Ops response. For sure. I never met him in person, but she sent me screenshots. He's even made strange comments when she and I would be on FaceTime. He told me once that I was more of his type, and she just laughed it off. My family blamed me for being disabled growing up and said I was faking it so much that I made it real. Posted by u/Eschlau. Hi all. History. I come from an extremely low-income, uneducated, and prejudiced family, basically Midwestern rednecks. I was born with a disability that affects the way I walk. Growing up, my parents didn't believe that my inability to walk normally was a disability. They, mainly my father, my mom just kind of goes along with him, thought I was doing it for attention or to spite them or something, even as a toddler. Because of this, I was punished for walking the only way I am physically able to. Which means I was basically punished constantly for about 7 to 8 years, until a teacher had a sit down with my parents and strongly suggested they take me to see someone. At this point, the disability was identified and the doctor suggested surgery, which my family couldn't afford. So I spent a number of years in leg braces, physical therapy, etc., which didn't work, as it's a congenital disability. My parents and family, despite being told what was going on, still blamed me for my condition. They believed that I faked this disability long enough as a baby and toddler, that I eventually made my body this way. They've always been resentful because of that, and used to constantly remind me how much money they had to shell out for my problem. Throughout my childhood, I was constantly teased about my condition by other kids. I was in leg braces when Forrest Gump came out, yelled at and punished by my parents, and criticized by extended family and other adults, even strangers at the grocery store. People even commented on it in my receiving line at my wedding 2 years ago. I spent years learning a fake normal walk for when I can't wear shoes, developing a thick skin, and learning to laugh at myself. I've been reminded of this condition by everyone I meet and everyone I know on a constant basis for my entire life. At this point, it's such a strong part of who I am as a person and my resiliency. I don't even think of it as a disability, really, just a part of who I am. The problem, at this point, I'm 30 years old. Over the past decade or so, I've had a lot of problems with my feet because of the unusual weight distribution pattern I place on them attempting to walk. Over the last year, though, I started noticing signs of nerve damage, numbness, tingling, and shooting pain that renders me barely able to walk at times, and my doctor strongly stressed revisiting an orthopedic surgeon. At my consult, the surgeon was shocked. He kept asking me questions with this incredulous look on his face, taking pictures with his phone, and commenting on how surprised he was that I could walk as well as I can at this point. He said it's one of the most severe cases he's ever seen of this particular condition, as most are fixed in childhood via surgery. The imaging of my lower extremities showed tissue damage and nerve impingement, making surgery a necessity at this point. So I scheduled a surgery a couple of months from now. I've had a lot of weird feelings about this since scheduling the surgery. The first pertains to how/when I'm going to tell my family. For years I have completely avoided any talk of my condition and generally ignore all of the comments made by everyone, still walking like a freak, and the like. I know my parents still believe I did this to myself. Even though I've developed a pretty thick skin to others, I still get emotional thinking about the abuse, shame, and humiliation I suffered at the hands of my parents and family throughout my childhood because of this. I'm afraid that it's all going to boil back to the surface when I tell them and start a fight. We already have a tepid relationship, and I don't want to make it worse. The other weird feeling I have pertains to the idea that I'm fixing something. I know that at this point, it's either surgery or losing the use of my lower legs over the next few years. However, it feels like I'm losing a piece of me. I've spent 30 years telling myself that there's nothing wrong with me. Finally fixing my condition feels like I'm agreeing with everyone, that there was something inherently wrong with me all along. The surgeon said I would have to relearn how to walk, run, jump, etc. I'm excited to know what it feels like to walk on two good legs, but at the same time, I start to cry even thinking about changing this part of me forever. It's part of me. It's the way I was made. Fixing it makes it seem like I agree that I was made wrong. I don't know how to make peace with that feeling. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. You are not selling out, you are getting a medical procedure to make your life continue to be livable. Yes, your life is going to change, and it'll be scary, but it is objectively for the best. Anyone, including your family, who can't accept that is not worth having in your life. Frankly, you are an angel for even keeping your family in your life, as awful as it sounds like they've been to you. You are strong, and you are making the right decision. Commenter 2. I'd recommend that, while you remove this disability from your life, you cut out your horrid family. They honestly shouldn't have a place in it. I would also practice some short phrases like, yeah, and I blame redheads for choosing their hair color. I was born with it, you hick. Wishing it away would do crap all, what next, should I have done voodoo? I think it's time you stopped biting your tongue because they don't. Ops response. There is some truth to your last statement. I always tell myself that I do not need to lower myself to another station or let the words and actions of others affect the way I'm going to behave and feel, but I do need to start being more assertive and making others know it's not okay to talk to someone like that. When I was in my preteen years, I got so sick of being made fun of that I slowly changed my personality. I became sarcastic and callous. It was like, if I don't care about anything, then no one can hurt me. If I can fire off an insult first, then I won't be the victim. That phase lasted a couple of years, and I hated what I became. I let myself become just like the people I was protecting myself from. I think in the aftermath of that phase, when I started to be myself again, I have become afraid of returning to that persona. In doing that, I've unintentionally become a doormat at times. I'm a passionate advocate for at-risk kids and victims of abuse in my personal life, but I'm a crappy advocate for myself. I need to start seeing myself as just as important as others, and deserving of the same respect. Op adds an edit to their post. Holy cannoli, I came home from school to see this, and oh my goodness. Thank you all so much for your kind words and support. I'm truly reading all the comments, even if I can't respond to all of them. I want to thank you all so much. Your comments made me laugh, cry, and seriously think about a lot of things in my life related to my family. I wanted to address some points that I've seen come up a couple of times, for better clarification. 1. My family no longer thinks I'm faking. At this point, they believe that I faked my condition as a baby and toddler, and that led to the condition I live with today, kind of like if you keep making that face it's going to stick that way mentality. There is absolutely no getting through to them about this, so I just ignore it. 2. I grew up in a poor, uneducated, generally abusive household with an abusive alcoholic father and an enabler for a mother. I've been in therapy off and on for almost a decade now, but really started to make progress a few years ago when I started seeing my current psychiatrist, so no worries about my current mental health. Although I still have a lot of problems related to my family history, as well as other things that happened, I am in the best possible place now and actively dealing with it. 3. The reason I still keep my family in my life is because of a few reasons. 1, of course, is the unconditional love I feel for them. As horrible as some of them have been, deep down I will always want to help them and hope that things will get better. I realize this is stupid of me, but I've been working at limiting my exposure to them for a number of years now, and it is a slow process. Another reason, which I know is also probably stupid, is for the sake of my other family members. I am very protective of my family, and in my teen years established something of a caretaker/head of household role with them when my dad's alcoholism got really bad. I can't handle the thought of the stress and pain I would cause my mom and siblings if I were to cut them out of my life. I don't know if I could do that to them. I do love them, as flawed as they are. 4. After reading through most of the great comments you guys left, I think I'm going to simply get the surgery and not say anything. I live across the country from my family and only see them 1 to 2 times a year for a week or so at a time. I probably won't be seeing them again until next Christmas. I could potentially get the surgery and mostly recover by then. If they notice, they notice. I realize by reading your comments that I don't owe them an explanation. If they push about it, I'll do what I normally do and leave the situation before I get upset. It's not their concern what I do with my body. Thank you also very much for your kind words, they mean the world to me. Update 3 months later. Hi everyone. I was so overwhelmed by the positive responses and well wishes back when I posted about this that I thought I would update all of you on how things are going. So, I had my surgery about a month ago, and it went well without any complications. I was in excruciating pain for the first couple of days, but my husband was by my side 24/7 to help out. He had a week off from work, so it worked out nicely, and I was able to wean myself off the narcotic painkillers they gave me after about 5 to 6 days. Since then, I've been on crutches and still have about another 3 or so weeks of crutches to go, most likely. I don't want to get crazy specific about what my disability or surgery was for privacy purposes, so unfortunately that's all I can really say about it. It's been tedious, but the great thing about recovering from an injury or surgery, I suppose, is learning a new level of patience and endurance. I'm really happy with my recovery so far and the results I'm already seeing. I can't wait until I am recovered and strong enough to try walking without the crutches or any other device and see what it's like. Leading up to the surgery and immediately after, I didn't tell anyone about it, not even my closest friends. I was kind of afraid of how word might get around, if people would bring it up or something. It got really difficult, though, to keep the secret, as my husband and I had to be careful about what we said and who we said it to. It felt like we were sneaking around, like we had something to be ashamed of. Finally, I told a couple of close friends, who were very supportive. I wasn't planning on telling my family, but I finally did. I felt like I was lying by omission when my mom would call and ask how everything was, anything new, etc., and I would just try to act normal. I finally told her, plain and simple, yeah, so I had surgery about 2.5 weeks ago. She was pretty shocked, and she seemed genuinely hurt that I hadn't told her, not in what she said, but in her tone. She asked me why I hadn't mentioned anything, and I said that it had always been a very tense subject in the family, and I didn't want to bring it up. I think, somehow, that got through to her. She seemed genuinely regretful of the situation. She was speaking to me with shame in her voice. We didn't talk long, as I was studying, but later that night, I just kind of thought, to hell with it, and made a Facebook post coming out to my friends and other family members and letting them know what I had done. I wrote a narrative about what it was like growing up being different, the rude and hurtful things people would say, the feelings of shame and isolation that I felt, and how those feelings were so strong that I was debating whether or not I should even tell anyone. It was a positive post, though, overall, as I tried to remind people that individuals with disabilities shouldn't be treated like outcasts or exhibits. And honestly, I don't have time or room in my heart to feel angry or resentful. I am so hopeful for the future and looking forward to normal mobility. Everyone was incredibly supportive about the post, and my parents called me a bunch of times in the days after. We played phone tag a bit, and when I finally talked to my mom a couple of days ago, she said she wanted to start looking at flights to come out here and visit me and help out. I told her that wasn't necessary, that I was pretty used to the crutches now and the limited mobility I have, and she said she hopes I can reconsider in the next couple of days, as it would make her feel a little bit better to be able to help me out, cook, shop, etc. Apparently, me getting the surgery and intentionally not telling them, coupled with the Facebook post that my mom saw, I didn't call them out or anything in it, just talked in general about how difficult it was, made my parents feel horrendously guilty about the way I grew up and was treated. My mom wanted to try to make it up to me somewhat by flying out here and spending some time together. I appreciate the sentiment, and I'm glad that they're seeing the way they treated me in a new light, but I do think I'm honestly too busy in the next couple of weeks to host a guest. I told her we could revisit the discussion in a couple of weeks. So, everything is pretty great right now. I made peace a long time ago with the fact that I will never be completely comfortable or close with my family, but it's nice to know that people can change or try to. I really appreciate the effort my parents are putting in, even if it's not necessary. It's the thought that counts, I guess. I don't want to say I'm glad they feel bad, but I'm kinda glad they feel bad. It shows that they're human, Maybe there's some hope there. Anyway, thank you all again so much for your kindness and support. Your replies and messages meant everything to me, even if I didn't get around to responding to them. I read and appreciated every single one. Here's to good health and a good life. Goodbye. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Good for you. Glad your mom finally got it. However, my experience is that parents who have been abusive for a long time, even when they want to change, don't know how. They don't know any better. They will be ashamed of themselves for not being different, but they can't be different. Hence, I would not recommend having her over while you're not at your best. You need to save your energy for recovery and not get beaten down by dealing with snide remarks and her "I'm so ashamed, please forgive me" follow-ups. Of course, you know her way better than I do, so ignore this if it doesn't apply. If it does apply, then feel free to invite her to come when you're feeling better. That right now is not the time to restart your relationship, you're too spent. By the way, great job on telling her that you didn't mention it because it had been a very tense subject. Way to take your own power. Editor's note. From a commenter almost 10 years later, it looks like Op might be doing well. The account is still active. Posted recently about succeeding in med school, working as a psychiatrist, and being low contact with some family members.